I work for Dublin Fire Brigade as a paramedic and a fireman. And a while back, I was invited over to the Royal Society in London, and I was asked to give a talk on radical mitigation for climate change, something you don't normally associate with a firefighter. And I mean, when I think back to that time, you know, it was a global gathering of professors, scientists, climatologists, and some of the world's greatest minds. And I felt it was a really bizarre moment in my life. I'm sure it must have looked bizarre to everybody that was there. But one of the things that came out of that was that I was saying to people what it was that had started in Dublin and was kind of becoming a movement. And I kind of, if I was to say to you that I went from that moment to then going talking all around the world and meeting different politicians, some very well-known presidents, governments, and different agencies and commissions, all about the radical need to halt the speed of the climate change crisis. So where it kind of all began, 10 years ago, my fire station in Dublin, which is the first fire station that had this work to happen, had lost 50% of its crew to a new fire station that was built in a different part of Dublin. And the new fire station, I call it modern and sexy. And our fire station was 40-year-old and in bits. And when the crew left to go to the new fire station, they brought with them all their experience and all the different things that they actually brought to our fire station. And morale started to drop. Motivation dropped. A lot of the time, people are coming in and weren't happy to be in work. And in a fire station, you don't want that to happen. So I just came up with this crazy, random idea. What if we put a cardboard box on a counter, and I wrote on the side of it, used batteries here. And what if people just decided to take part? And the craziest thing happened because within only 1 month, the battery box had started to overflow. And the same people that were having motivation issues and had caused morale to be low were the same people that were taking part in something. And they were filling the box with batteries. One of the biggest problems I then had was where to hide the batteries because I had nowhere to put them. Now, as soon as this started to take hold, I became a kind of go-to person. And people were saying to me, what other ideas have you got? What other projects have you got? What else can we do? And I had no idea. But I spotted straight away that people wanted to buy in and have some kind of behavioural change that could do something to lift the spirit of the fire station. And at that stage I realised, well, batteries are connected to waste, let's say. They go to landfill. What if we started to think about ways to tackle waste, save money, and reinvest that money as a saving into the fire station? And what about, if we did that, the place might become a better place to work. And all of a sudden, the go-to person with the mad ideas turned into someone with lots of ideas that worked and lots of ideas that failed. And I'm really proud of the ideas that failed because it showed us we can just keep going. I'm very happy to say at the end of the first year, just on waste alone, waste in the form of domestic waste to landfill and waste in the form of heat that goes out through open windows, we'd reduced the running cost of the fire station by €10,000. And all the ideas that I had, these kind of procedures, I had to give them a name at that stage because everyone was asking me, what is it that we're taking part in? And I called it the GreenPlan. And I realised the firefighters were becoming the stakeholders in their own fire station. They wanted to improve everything. So it's amazing to think that the crazy random act of recycling batteries in the Dublin fire station has led me to talking to you guys today and saying about the urgent need to tackle climate change and what we can all do to take part. The thing is, that's exactly how it should be, and that's exactly how it is. Because every one of us is a change maker. Every one of us is capable of taking on something that we don't fully understand as long as we believe we want to take part in being the solution to the problem. In the case of climate change, nobody wants to feel they sat by and let climate change pass us by, and it's our legacy that we've left behind. Sorry. In 2008, Rahm Emanuels was the White House Chief of Staff, and he said, never let a good crisis go to waste. I think it's very fair to say, with President Trump making one of his most juvenile, ill-advised decisions to pull America from the Paris Agreement, perhaps that's presented us with a very large crisis. But there's another way of looking at it. What if that crisis is actually a great opportunity for all of us to come together and say, well, we can do something about it. We can take on climate change. We can actually all pull together and come up with different solutions and different ideas, such as what happened in the fire station, and we can see what we can do. So, for example, when I started off, I went into management, and if I had said to them, okay, I have this idea, let's reduce the emissions of the fire station. Let's reduce waste. Let's take on biodiversity projects. Let's reduce our emissions from transport. Let's reduce the amount of water we consume. Let's be great. I'd have been picked up and laughed out of the room, and rightly so. At the same time that my work was starting in the fire brigade, the global recession had kicked in, the Lehman Brothers Bank had collapsed, and the recession was being compared to the Great Depression of the 1930s. So instead I had to refocus, and I had to think, what can I do that will pull in management and that they can see that there's a benefit for everybody, that we can all win? So I went in and I explained, I had this idea, just like what had happened in the first fire station. What if we thought about saving money? What about we asked the firefighters to come up with ideas that are very simple and very local, and they'll reduce the cost of running the fire station? What if we use that saving to take on small projects that attack the low-hanging fruit? The low-hanging fruit are the people in front of you. In the case of the fire brigade, it's firefighters. In business, it's the crew that work, or the people who work for the company. What if those savings got into a fund and you could actually invest them more and more into the next location? And it's very interesting to see that the first fire station that we did the work in ended up in 2012 becoming the world's first carbon neutral fire station, which means it was net carbon zero, which means that we'd even calculated the embodied energy of the fire station, and every piece of energy that was ever needed to create that fire station, we'd actually offset with positive actual actions. And all of a sudden, when you announce you're the world's first carbon neutral fire station, everybody wants to know what's the secret of your success, especially if you had no real investment. So, of course, even down to the EU Commissioner for Climate Change came over to Dublin to meet me and asked, can I see firsthand, what are you doing in the fire station? So, one of the problems we have about climate change is that it's so regularly mixed up with global warming, okay? They're two different things. Climate change is the average increase in temperature over a period of time caused by the burning of fossil fuels to access their energy. And it causes emissions to enter our atmosphere. It's that simple. That's all climate change is. Climate change is man-made. It's not local. It's not country by country. It's completely global. When we think about climate change, there's so much talk and jargon, and it's always misunderstood, and people don't really know where to go. You know, one of the things I'm not going to do is put up graphs and put up climate models and do my usual, which is bombard people with facts and figures and start explaining about or preaching, you could say, about the catastrophic effects on climate change on every corner of the world and how its effects are not actually equally distributed. Because most people, especially the people in the room, most people get climate change is real, climate change is happening now, and it's not affecting us all equally. The people that we call poor people, the people in the third world, the non-industrialized countries, they're actually the people with the most amount to lose, the quickest. It's interesting to think that Africa is the one place on earth that has the most potential for renewable technology, renewable energy from technology, and has the least access to energy. It's a crazy, crazy thought. I think it's fair to say when we vote politicians into government or into office, we believe that they will act with our best interests at heart. We believe that they'll make informed decisions based on the most relevant and up-to-date information that they have, and that they'll act on in this case, on scientific fact. And yet we're faced looking at certain politicians or people we believe are our leaders, and we look at them and they deny and debate scientific fact. You can't deny scientific fact. Everybody here in this room is entitled to their own opinion, myself included. Everybody has an opinion. It has to be one of the best things about being free and being alive. And maybe there's never been a better time to be alive as there is today. But nobody in the room has the right to the ownership of the facts of science when it comes to climate change. Nobody can own those facts, especially the people we deem to be our leaders. There's parents in the room, I'm sure, today. Can you imagine if your child came home and had a real sad face and you said, "What's wrong?" and they showed you their work and it all had a big incorrect mark on it. And upon closer inspection, you looked at their work and you realized it was actually correct. There was nothing wrong. The teacher just felt like saying it was wrong and didn't give them the correct marks. But what would you do the next morning? You'd be into that school bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and God help the teacher. And there'd be no debate. And in this case, there's no debate about climate change. It's real and it's happening now. And I believe that our leaders are letting us down. And it's something that's really troubled me. I spent so long trying to figure out, why would you deny and waste time debating scientific facts when you could be leading from the front? So it makes me say to you, if you think about it, we have the scientific facts, we have the data, and we have everything we need. We even have the know-how, but what's stopping us? If I was to ask anyone in this room to make a decision on behalf of every other person, the first thing you do is pause and think, what reaction or ramification will come to my decision to affect everybody here in this room? But yet, our leaders aren't doing that when it comes to climate change. So I'd like to think that means they're giving us the biggest opportunity of all time, which is to giving us the opportunity to be the change maker. Everybody here is a change maker. Everybody here has the ability to take on something, as I said, that they don't fully understand, as long as we want to be part of the solution to the problem. When I started to work in the first fire station, my agenda was to save money. That's all I wanted to do, save money, and sure, that'll improve morale. If I could make a saving, I told you I'd put it into the next fire station. But here's what actually happened. We started to make savings, and we started to upgrade the fire station, and that made more savings. So we invested more in the fire station. And after not too long, I told you earlier we had €10,000, and if we follow that trail, it ended up that the fire station became 90% energy independent. That meant I had the money to invest in other fire stations. And of course, all of a sudden the GreenPlan went from an idea to maybe a small movement, because in the other fire stations there was firefighters with their hands up saying, "Hey, how can I take part in this?" And you see, in the first fire station what we did, we had so much savings, we actually built a purpose-built, state-of-the-art, brand new gymnasium for the firemen to use on their downtime and on their off time. A total win-win. And of course, all the other fire stations wanted one too. Now, soon, the ideas of what we were doing in that fire station that made all this energy saving and all this money, I started to call it green stuff. It means LED lights, it means solar panels, rainwater harvesters, air source heat pumps, and all that kind of green stuff. And that's brilliant. But when I had the other firefighters and the other stations taking on the projects, I realized that I was gathering first followers. And every one of those first followers technically is somebody that doesn't fully understand what's going on, but knows they want to take part in being the solution to a problem. In essence, I was gathering all new leaders. And all those people were going looking for more people to follow them. And of course, what's going to happen? You're going to have more money to make more savings, to make more investments. So I took the green stuff and I went to the fire brigade's business plan and I embedded it into the business plan. And it completely disrupted a 150-year-old organization. What that means is we'd gone from green stuff to sustainable development. We'd gone from real, tangible projects on the ground to full-blown, tangible projects inside our business plan, inside the day-to-day running of an entire 150-year-old organization. That meant that immediately we had to determine what are the main risks to the fire brigade. And we were able to find out it's the threat from climate change, and we were able to make it as our highest risk. Immediately we had to do what any normal business would do, set key performance indicators to help us achieve our targets and to help us lower our carbon footprint. Now, at that stage, the City Council came along and they said, hold on a minute, how do we take part? So I got the GreenPlan to go inside the City Council, and it went inside the City Development Plan, and it went inside the City Business Plan. And before long, there's a lot of departments around Dublin with people with their hands up saying, hey, how can we take part in this? And of course, I just gathered a whole load more first followers, or as I prefer, new leaders. Before long, the Green Plan had then been embedded in libraries, swimming pools and leisure centres as a separate gig completely to the fire station and the fire brigade. And I'm very happy to say that at the end of only 4 years, Dublin Fire Brigade on its own, inside its own estate, had reduced its energy spend by 44%. And 44% means 44% less carbon emissions. But let's say what it really means. It means we saved money. It means we saved €11 million in 4 years on running our fire service with your money, because the taxpayer funds the fire service. So surely that de-risks the fire service. And of course the idea spread because soon I realised other fire brigades internationally, and forget fire brigades, other companies, other countries, other people wanted to do this work. I'm very proud to say the Green Plan is now in 31 different countries. So I'm very happy with that. So I'd like to think I took a crisis and maybe didn't let it go to waste. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today.